you're wearing a diaper. I'm not a baby. You're wearing a diaper. I'm not a baby, though. Yes, you're wearing a diaper. Well, I'm not a baby. You're wearing a diaper. I'm not. Well, I'm not even a baby, though. But you're wearing a diaper. You can't say but. That's a bad word. Well, I didn't say real but.
Good evening. Good evening. I'm Rarchar Tortorella, your host, and this is the Patriot Sentinel Unplugged tonight. We have a lot going on tonight. We got the OU Alabama game on behind us. Got John Greening, political commentator, and Wendi Montgomery Dial on the show. And we haven't been on a podcast in a while. So how are you doing, Wendi?
It's been a while. I'm doing all right, Rarchar. My mug is packed up. Sorry.
So for those that don't know, when Wendi and I get on a podcast show, we always have our Trump mug to show our support for the greatest president since Ronald Reagan. And
right.
The left, they're continuing to lose their minds. And no, we have friends that are on the left. I have several good ones, but the majority of the Democrats who identify as Democrats in the far left have been calling us names for the longest time. Nazis, pedophiles, that's a good one, and Christian nationalist. And I think it's time for us to own the Christian nationalist title. I mean, we are Christians, we are nationalists, we believe in America first, MAGA, and everything that has been done by President Trump has been done on behalf of all Americans. Last night, he said that we have the lowest inflation, 2.7%. He has given checks out to active duty members, 1776, and those members have already received it. And no, this is not program housing allowance. This is something that was done recently. So no matter what the president does, and no matter what they do to us and how they identify and call us names, the biggest thing in their minds is the Christian nationalism moniker. I don't know if it's a moniker. I'm just saying that as Christians and conservatives, it's time that we own that. In fact, I would like, John, with your help, because you are a political cartoonist and you're very adept at that, to make T-shirts that says, "I'm proud to be a Christian nationalist," and maybe put something about 1776 when all this started, right? And just own it. It's time that we stop running from it, and let's just embrace it. And that's pretty much the talking points tonight. But we'll go and start with John. Are we on the right thing, the right track? Should we own being Christian nationalist?
I think so. What it is, they've tried to spin it as something negative. Being a nationalist doesn't mean you're racist. It doesn't mean you want to see the rest of the world burn and all that. It just means you're proud of your country, And my wife is from Peru, and she's proud of that. And I wouldn't have that any other way. We ought to be proud to be Americans, and we ought to be proud to be Christians. We shouldn't have to hide our faith or downplay it. That's my story, and I'm sticking to it.
No, I like it. So Wendi, do you think that they're terrified of Christian nationalism because it's totally cool? And, do they like it? Do they like using that term against us? And how do you feel? I mean, I think it's a cool term if we just own it.
Well, nationalist in the past has had a negative context, but I think in this case for America, being a Christian nationalist, if you understand the Christian religion, you understand that Christians believe that our freedom comes through Jesus Christ. So as long as we're following Christ, then people don't have anything to fear, because Christ brought freedom to the world. And being a Christian nationalist then means you would believe in freedom, quite frankly. So it's not a tyrannical term. It's not a situation where you believe that just because of the country, et cetera, it's because of what you believe through Jesus Christ. So I think it's a great idea to own it. Just explain to people what it actually is and what it means, and have that conversation with people and have it ready. And it makes people think. So I think you're
it
right.
makes them think. I think,
Yeah.
this all started with, I saw a post by one of our politicians, Democrat in nature, about Ryan Walters wanting the 10 Commandments in schools. So when should ever the 10 Commandments in schools be more controversial than, say, drag queen story hour, John?
I totally agree. You got on one side, you got Jesus, you got heaven, you got freedom in this life. And on the other side, you got perverts. Why would any drag queen, they can do what they want. I don't care. But why do they want to do it for our kids? That's the scary thing. Why are they so hung up on, let's present this perversion to the kids at this point in their life? That's what bothers me.
It should bother everybody. I mean, look, didn't Trump, I think the Senate just voted in favor of banning nationwide child transsexual. I saw that come across the wire this afternoon. But,
start transitioning them or whatever.
That is the worst thing you can do to a 10, 11, 12, 13 years old. Look, we know that their frontal lobe and their reasoning skills aren't developed until they're at least 23, 24, 25. And we've had so many former trans children come out and say that they should have done a better job at protecting me because I didn't know what I wanted when I was 10 years old. So there was a girl who was on Fox this morning, not on Fox News, but Fox carried some of the discussion, is that, they had chopped off her breasts and gave her puberty blockers. And the worst mistake was when she realized, when she turned like 24, 25, that it was a big mistake. Does that make us Christian nationalists? No, it makes us common sense Americans with kids, and we want to protect our kids. I mean, Wendi, they call us theocrats while literally making climate change their religion, making trans whatever their religion. But when it comes to what I call child sacrifices, that's what it is. It's a child sacrifice for their religion. Why is that so hard for the left to grab onto and understand that they are mutilating our future generations?
Well, I don't know, Rarchar. Common sense seems to have headed out the door the past 5 years, at the very least, or longer. So I honestly cannot answer that question. I do know that I believe that when it comes to the left, they're a smaller percentage of the population. They just have a larger voice because of censorship and the things that we've had to deal with over the past 5 years. So I think that line of thought is not as prevalent as they would like to have people think. Now, I'm glad that the Senate did what they did, passing the law against surgeries, because you're right. Children, when they're minors, should not be subjected to this kind of surgery through anyone, because they can't make that decision for themselves, and it is a life-changing, life-altering event. I feel the same way, quite frankly, about child marriages. So, kids under the age of 18 but should not be allowed to engage in marriage, even if their parents say so, because they should at least be 18 years old where you can enter into a legal contract with someone else and not be forced into it. That has been used in the past by adults to sell children into slavery. So we have to be careful of all these things. And what are considered religious practices, if they are harmful to others, it's a matter of the laws and the fact that
religious
our
practices.
laws are based on the Ten Commandments, quite frankly. Our laws are based on British common law, which are based on biblical law. If you go back through the history, it's very clear. There are things that people and lawmakers really need to take into consideration, and it's a very thoughtful discussion that should be had, and it should be had in a civil way without all the vitriol and all the people, losing their minds basically on either side of the issue. But I think, just from a standpoint of common sense, child surgery that's a permanent issue, anything that's a permanent thing. For example, what is part, unfortunately, what we know of the satanic religion, and that is a religion? Sacrifice, human sacrifice. Is that legal? No. Are we going to change our laws on murder to accommodate that religion? No, because the Bible says thou shalt not kill. So with that said, there's a line to be drawn when it comes to religious practices. And if you want to call transgenderism a religious practice, the climatology today, or the fiction that goes around about climate, and it is pure fiction, man-made climate change, except to the extent that I would say there is weather modification, which is a completely different issue. If there is man-made climate change, that's it. It's not what they try to gaslight people into thinking it is. So there are all kinds of issues that need to be untied, unraveled, straightened out, and we need to have people that are have a mind towards common sense and can discuss these issues rationally and with each other, and not get into the whole emotional vitriol that happens, and then nobody wants to listen to you on anything, right? So we have to be careful.
I agree. So look, I think the vitriol is more on the other side than it is on our side, but I do see some people on the right that can be just as bad, but it's very small and far in between. But I think the question really is, are we going to let the same people who think there are 47 genders lecture us about imposing our worldview? But that's a conversation for another day. So, John, last night you watched up in Broken Arrow. It looked like hundreds of citizens go into, I don't know if it's the county or the city council meeting, and they were basically wanting them to turn down the rezoning for that Islamic center. I'm about religious freedom, but I have an issue with Islam spreading. They've destroyed Europe pretty much, and we're seeing Islam take hold in Texas. Do you think the folks that showed up last night in Broken Arrow are seeing the same concerns?
I think that some of them probably aren't, but some of them maybe are, and they don't care, because they're willing to let the whole country go down the tubes, like Dearborn, Michigan has. If they can beat their chest and talk about how pure they are in their stance on liberty and all this. I think that's what you're going to see a lot of in them. But I had to say something.
Look, serious. It's a serious question. Do Americans feel? Let's say, do Oklahomans feel what we've seen down south in Minneapolis, in some parts of Philadelphia, and certainly in Europe? Do they feel, and are they justified in saying we do not want this? There's a guy running for county commissioner Lane Brown, and I saw his video where he said that pretty much that this is on you. If they take over Oklahoma, and I'm just paraphrasing his words, of course, but basically what he's saying is that in 10 years from now, if we are overrun with extremists, this is on you guys tonight for the decisions you have made. So do you think that they are justified in their fears?
Oh, I think so. I mean, the only thing that's necessary now, I'm paraphrasing. Who was it? I don't even remember now. But the only thing necessary for evil to triumph is for good people to do nothing. I mean, we got to stand up. We got to take a stand. I think a lot of people think maybe they're afraid that they're going to be doxxed or something, but we're going to have to stand up to this, and push back. I definitely believe that.
Wendi, question for you. Do you think this rezoning request, if you're familiar with the story, is different from the surrounding property classifications? Do you think this is proper? Are you familiar with the rezoning issue, or you have no opinion right now?
I'm familiar with it, but as John said, it seems to me like it's a method of incrementalization. We have to be careful of who's rezoning, who owns the property, what the history is there. Do research, look up the corporation, look up the companies, look up the groups, do your due diligence before you're just going to vote on something. And I believe the vote was 3-2. Now, what Lane said about this is on you later. Well, I say don't even let it get that far, because if you find something improper or you have questions about this, then do not vote to rezone the district. You can make a motion to put it off, to do more research, to do more work. You let the public have their say, which they did. We are a constitutional republic, which means that our elected officials represent us. If the people want to look more into this and they don't want it rezoned right now, that to me seems like to be a more prudent course of action for the zoning commission to take, and that is to wait or to vote it down right now. So I don't see why you would go ahead and vote to send it to the city council if you have that many people showing up to a rezoning meeting. So I am familiar with it. I'm familiar with the issue in Michigan. We all see what's happened in Britain over the past few years. We see what's happening in Texas. And like I said, sometimes when you give people an inch, they take a mile. And these are being set up as no-go zones. And our laws are not being enforced. And there are people that are, it's my understanding, having Sharia law, Sharia courts, all of these things happening as they expand the area. And we can't have a situation where we have two different sets of law being set up on our soil. So, we literally have to be aware of that. And religious liberty is not such that, as we just discussed, that you can just do anything you like over and above American laws. It just can't happen.
Good point.
Can I add something
John.
too real quick?
Yeah, go ahead. I got a question for you too.
Okay, I've seen these, and I'm sure both of y'all have, and a lot of the people watching, queers for Palestine and stuff like that. Do these people understand what Islam does to homosexuals? I mean, do they
Obviously
really get it? They get thrown off of roofs. That's the standard punishment for being outed as a homosexual. They take you up on a skyscraper and toss you. So they really need to think. They really need to educate themselves. I really believe that.
Yeah, I think the education comes in a form of hard school. The school of hard knocks. And
Yeah,
it is
might.
true. I spent half my career in the Middle East, and they do not like the homosexual lifestyle. And I have seen Palestinians or queers for Palestine or Palestine for queers, whatever the hell they call each other. And it's kind of stupid if you ask me, because they're promoting a movement that literally calls for their death if they were in the Middle East. And let's
And
just
we'll
think this
destroy
out
them.
further. What's that?
And we'll destroy them if they get the opportunity.
If this was a Baptist megachurch, okay, I don't think any of us would have any problems with their expansion. But I do have a problem with it because, where I was born and raised, I've seen it turn into a war zone. I've seen German women attacked by migrants and Islamic males. And surprisingly, the German males have been silent for years. But I've seen a resurgence that they're saying no more. Okay, they're taking police actions, I guess, in their own hands. And now the German police are not taking it anymore. The people in Germany are rising up to this globalist tool for whatever devious purpose they have to change the culture of Europe. And what happens in Europe follows into America. And that's what we have to be looking at. It's not that Islamophobia, I don't know where that came from. I am not afraid of Islam. I have many people from Persia who are diehard Trump supporters. They love this country. And they would tell me that what's happening with the Somalis in Minneapolis, is wrong. If you are here, embrace our culture, embrace our language, become an American. Don't, and I'm going to say this again, bring your shithole culture to America. And I'm glad to see that Donald Trump is finally cracking down on what's happening in Minnesota. And we need to crack down across the nation. If you come here, you're immigrants, learn the language, assimilate. That's all we ask. Because if we were to immigrate to Germany or anywhere else before, say, in the last 20 years, we would be required to assimilate. But you saw what happened in Australia over the weekend at Bondi Beach. Now you got the Prime Minister of Australia not taking the seriousness of what happened on the first day of Hanukkah by those two Islamic thugs, and now he's calling for the state to pay attention to the far right, and he wants to confiscate all the guns. Thank God for the Second Amendment. Thank God for Oklahoma's constitutional carry, because we would not see that nonsense here in Oklahoma. But I'm afraid, and look, I'm not speaking for the folks in Broken Arrow, but I do feel what they're feeling is that if they allow this Islamic center to get rezoned, which they the council, I'm not sure if it's city council or the county commissioners, okay, they're afraid of what they've seen that we might have in 10 years or less the Islamification here in Broken Arrow in Oklahoma, Red Dirt, Oklahoma, where you're living side by side with Sharia law. That's a possibility. And that's all they were saying last night. Do not approve this zoning. Now, I'm going to play devil's advocate here, right? If they own the property, then they should be able to do what they want. If they need to ask for rezoning, that's how the process works. But the only issue I have here is that we've seen from past history here in America, here in Texas, in Europe, all over Europe, they do not and will not assimilate.
Got a question. Do you remember about 10 years ago here in Moore, where I live, that meat packing plant or whatever it was over there? It's like a mile and a half from my house. And this old boy got written up or fired or something. And he goes out, and he's been radicalized because he's been going to a mosque. he goes out to his car, gets a scimitar, goes in there, and starts cutting people's heads off. I think he killed one and seriously injured another one until his boss, stepped out with his gun and dropped him like a toilet seat.
It was a deputy, Cleveland County deputy sheriff, who was I think an assistant manager of that store,
right.
that went out to his car, got his vest, got his badge, got his gun, and came in and shot that sumbitch dead. But this is a question for Wendi. Can we oppose this project without opposing religious freedom in general? Because that's what they're going to say.
Like I said, it's very simple. You go back, you see who owns the land, you see who owns the property. If they are listed as a terrorist organization, it's very easy to turn it down. But you have to do your due diligence and you have to do your research. If that research shows that it's a legitimate organization and it's not on any kind of watch list, it would be difficult to rezone the mosque. It would not be difficult, or it would be easier to rezone for the mosque than it would be to rezone for the shopping center. So there are two different things going on there. So the religious center, you would think would be approved, but then the shopping center could be turned down. So the issue, this is where you hope that your zoning commissions have wisdom and would ask the public for their research. We know a lot of people in the Patriot movement across Oklahoma that do research and do it well. So the elected officials would be very, very wise and smart to listen to their constituents on this matter and to take what they have to say into serious consideration, because you don't want to end up with a situation where, unbeknownst to them, a zoning commission has approved a building for a terrorist-backed organization. I know they don't want to do that, but they have to actually do their homework to make sure that's not happening.
I agree. Next up, Real ID. I know that, Wendi, you've been following the developments of Real ID. Can you bring us up to speed real quick?
Sure. Real ID, Senator Kendall Sacchieri is submitting a bill, and I will have to drop in the chat the bill number. She has a Facebook video out regarding this issue, and people can go watch that. But she put this video out yesterday, and she is asking people to contact the governor's office and ask him to delay this deadline. Unbeknownst to people, Service Oklahoma is going to upload your information, whether or not you have a real ID or just a regular driver's license, to a nonprofit private organization called ANVA, which is the American Association of Motor Vehicle Administrators. Okay, so this is a private company that's going to get your data. That is in February. People are not aware of this. There are people like myself who have a regular driver's license. I would like to keep my data private. I understand that that's not always possible these days, but we certainly don't need the government helping, the state of Oklahoma helping with that data collection if we can help it. There's a reason why we didn't get real IDs. I have a passport. There's no reason for me to give that information for a state driver's license. But with that said, there's a February deadline where Service Oklahoma has said they are going to upload this data to this nonprofit. And we need the constituents and the citizens of Oklahoma to contact the governor and tell them that we are not happy about this. So if you don't want this private company to have your data, you need to call the governor's office at this point and support Kendall's bill once it is submitted to the legislature this session. I'm not sure what exactly can be done at the, when it's passed. If it's already been uploaded, that would seem to be a little bit too late, but she is submitting the legislation anyway and getting that on the books. But we have to start doing our best to make sure that our data is not being collected and submitted to any nonprofit private organization. It's bad enough the government has it. We want to make sure that nonprofits are not getting it either. It kind of reminds me, Rarchar, a little bit. And I'm going to bring this in because I just can't help it, because you see this, Trump won 2020. I go back to the elections issue and the ERIC system, where they were going to share driver's license data with a nonprofit, and don't know why that was going to happen, but we were giving driver's licenses to illegals or having that submitted, and people had to go in and fight that. Oklahoma's Second Amendment Association had to fight that. This reminds me a little bit of that. So we want to make sure that we are not sharing data with nonprofits. They can sell it. They can do anything with it, and the government can come in and find them later, but your data's already gone. So it's just best that we don't get into that practice to begin with.
So let me ask you a question. Hey, so what is she saying? So does she say why our data is going someplace else? What's the reason behind it?
It's going to go to a national database. So I think she's asking Service Oklahoma. I don't know if she's gotten any information on this yet as to what this company is going to do with this information. She does have that video out on Facebook. My concern, because I heard immediately that it was a national database, it was going to a nonprofit 501c3. These are entities that, with my investigations into elections, the red flags go up immediately, and I just cannot understand why this is necessary. The government already has your information for a real ID. If you don't have a real ID, it's a state Oklahoma driver's license. Why does my information need to go into a database? I drive in Oklahoma. What's the point of it? So I would definitely have the citizens look into this more and do their own research. But if they're upset about it, call the governor's office and ask him about it and see what he can do.
Well, we're going to have to stay on top of this, Wendi, just for the next episode, next Friday. If you can bring us more information about what exactly is going on, and maybe get Kendall on the show to explain what her concerns are, because I'm really not seeing it. The only issue I have is, why would the state share our data with anybody? I don't give a shit if they're a nonprofit or not. John, I mean,
Right.
it doesn't make any sense. Have you heard about this, John, yourself?
Yeah. Now, I just sent y'all a message. I didn't want to say anything on the air until we get something set up. But I know a lady that, she was talking about this back in 2004, 2005, and she actually works at the Capitol now. I'm not going to, put her on blast or anything before I've talked to her, but I know a lady that and I think people just kind of got lackadaisical or got tired of hearing about it or whatever. But she would be a great one that could just expound and tell us more than we want to know about it, really, to tell you the truth. She's outstanding.
Yeah, well, we'll have to get her or her LA on the show to explain what actually is going on, because the concern I get is that, I don't think the state should be sharing any data with somebody else. I have an issue with that in general. I mean, I have a real ID. I do have a passport, and I travel with both. And, for the most part, I would say, who cares? But I think there's an underlying important issue of data leaving the state of Oklahoma and being warehoused with an entity that we have no control over. And so I think that requires us to do more digging into it. The last thing
That is
on the,
Biometric. information.
Yeah, that
out
is the concern, Rashar, is the lack of oversight. With these private organizations, they are not subject to FOIA requests. They are not subject to open records requests.
Yes, yep.
It's a private organization with our information, and we have no way to hold them accountable.
Well, we have to find out what exactly they're storing the information for and what they plan and intend to use it for, because that is a big concern for most of us. It's not an Oklahoma thing. It's an American thing here. We don't want people
Well, I
holding
can't
on to
see why
personal and
they'd
private
want it.
information. What's that?
Yeah. I can't see why they would want it in the first place. What is the purpose of the organization, like you said, and why do they need to have this information in the first place? Why are they collecting it in the first place? That's my concern. So, I'm
Well,
old school, Rashar. We're about the same age. So we know that privacy is kind of important. And we were talking about this earlier.
yeah, we're the
Court
same age. So John is probably older than we are. We can call him Grandpa. So, but you guys think, so there are two more things left. I think, and it's regarding the president and the Epstein file released today, and also him adding his name on to the Kennedy Center in D.C. And so both, I think that he's a master troll at the left. He's been ignoring the Epstein list for months, saying it's nothing there, nothing there. And so they had a vote a couple of weeks ago, and they voted to release what they could on the Epstein file. And what they were releasing is not good for the Democrat Party. Mostly it has, Bill Clinton and what appears to be young women in the photographs with their face blocked out for privacy. I mean, do you think that, Wendi, you're the I would say the sane voice of reason sometimes. Do you think that he's a master troll, and he did this to set up the Democrats to affect the midterms, or saying, you can't trust the Democrats? I released the Epstein files here, and look, it's your boy. It's Bill Clinton who's in the middle of all this. Now, the files are just being released. I have that link to the DOJ, and when you click on it, there's so many people trying to access these PDF files here that it's actually slowed down the system. And they have a little running man bar, 80%, 90%, and it gets stuck at 90%. It says you're next in line, or you're 10 people behind getting access to these files here. But John, I know that you're a comedian type guy here. Do you think he bested the Democrats at their own game?
I think timing is everything. And I think, the art of the deal, this guy knows how to, get things done. He's like the puppeteer, he knows how to swing things at the right moment. And yeah, I think there's very good reasons why it was released when it was.
Kennedy Center and putting the Trump name on the building. Do you think I could hear CNN and that Caitlyn chick's head explode and yell in the office here? But Wendi, do you think he should have put his name on the building, or is this his way of saying, we got one over you again?
On the Kennedy Center, is it a
Yes.
taxpayer building?
Don't know, but it's got his name on it now.
I don't know,
doesn't
Rashar.
matter.
Private building, they can put what they want on it. If it's a taxpayer building, I'm not sure. I mean, I love President Trump and a lot of the things that he does, and he is, I would agree, the master troll. And these things just make me smile when they come out, because if you want to talk about somebody that has nerve, it's President Trump, and that's awesome and great. A lot of times, and sometimes people don't like it quite so much. But the Kennedy Center is known recently for backing leftist causes and doing all these things. So I can definitely see the troll point for that. As far as the Epstein files, I can't say Rarchar because I take the the stance of the victims in that case, and the fact that these young women were, minors and underage, and that's a very serious matter. So I try not to joke around about the Epstein files. It's a very serious concern. So any time things like that happen to children, we should all, of course, be concerned. It's a huge deal. But the Epstein files, I don't know what's going to happen. I would hope we don't release anything that's going to be necessary for future trials if anybody were to ever get arrested for things like that. With that said, as a Christian, I know that God has the ultimate say, but that doesn't mean we don't do anything here on this planet as best we can. Because what does he say? What does Jesus say? Something about millstones regarding children. I mean, for thieves in the temple, all he did was whip them and drive them out. Okay, so if you harm a child, you're going to have some serious consequences.
You'd be thrown in the water with a millstone around your neck. Yeah,
exactly. And drowning form of death is what I believe doctors tell us. So it's
what happens in prison to pedophiles is appropriate too as well. So don't get railroaded by a bunch of
that as well. Yeah,
by a bunch of Hispanic men on a Saturday morning, like every day for the rest of your life. So that's
what happened
in
to
itself.
Jeffrey
There.
Dahmer. Yeah, what happened to Jeffrey Dahmer?
Dahmer.
Yeah, look at what happened to him. So I don't condone any of that, but seriously,
it is man's judgment sometimes too. So God will punish you eventually, but while you're here on this planet, we got your ass. So that's how it works out. So so anyways, hey, we're at the 40-minute mark here. I want to thank you guys for the first episode of the Patriot Sentinel Unplugged. We plan to do this every Friday, and I'm gonna, before we sign off, I found a funny video. You know how we have halftime shows, and you have that one person who we think is going to sing the national anthem, but they just butcher the crap out of it. So enjoy this. So.
And singing tonight is Pamela Bell, winner of local grocery store Schnucks Anthem Idol contest.
I hear the girl can sing.
Well, let's go to the field.
Ladies and gentlemen, here tonight to honor our country by singing the national anthem, please welcome Pamela Bell.
Early night. The what? Supper that's right. Last blaming. The whose broad stripes and right roars. Oh, the ramrods we watched. And the rockets, red glare, the bombs bursting up in the air. Through the night. And I've never